Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. We have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers, my friends.
Cheers.
Glad to be back. Feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, no longer throwing up on top of a mountain. So that's great.
There you go. Even better.
Uh,
Yeah. And you were, you almost forgot what we needed to do when you first started.
What's that?
Well, we kind of waited there and it's you doing the intro.
Usually, yeah. But every once in a while, you tend to pick up the slack a little bit. So I just kind of looked at you to see if you'd start talking or not. And well, you didn't.
No, but here's what we're going to really do. We're going to mess with people. Ready?
Oh, hey.
Oh, there we go.
Swapperoo.
All right.
I'm excited for today's show. Josh is someone who puts out a ton of content online, really geared towards homeowners. And then he's got his live show as well that's geared towards technicians and contractors. But I'm excited for it because one, video crushes when it comes to any type of marketing. And he's doing a tremendous job of that. And I think there's a lot of things that people can learn from that side of it, but he's tremendously knowledgeable as well. I don't know if you've watched some of his content that's on there or not, but there's such a wide range of topics that he goes through. I'm excited for it. He's got the plaque up behind him for 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is no small feat. We're definitely trying to chase that down, but yeah, I'm excited for today's conversation. He's tremendously knowledgeable in the field.
Yeah, and it's in flipping the narrative on what we traditionally talk about, and the HVAC guide for homeowners is one of the big things that we're gonna dive into. But coming at it from doing what's right by the homeowner and doing what's right by the individual that's on the other side of the table. Not to say that companies don't do that. I think there are a lot that do, but there's also some that are shady as fuck. And well, now we can talk about what to expect from some of that as well. But today's show would, of course, not be possible without our sponsors, and in no particular order: Elite Call, Chirp, Service World Expo, and On Purpose Media. So let's get going with, have you ever thought about outbounding your databases to fill your dispatch boards with lucrative sales and service appointments and boosting memberships too? Well, enter an Elite Call, a US-based call center that does just that. For over 20 years, their dedicated teams don't just make calls, they directly integrate appointments into your CRM and fill your dispatch boards. Don't let your competition get ahead. Visit the folks over at Elite Call today at elitecall.net.
Awesome. And we've got Chirp, and I'm going to ad-lib this one a little bit because it's something that's come up recently. I know, look out. It's something that's come up recently, and it typically comes up in summer. Missed calls. It happens a ton in businesses. You're paying for these leads. You're paying for these calls come into your business, and yet you don't have a system in place in order to reach back out to those people when the call gets missed or it's an abandoned call. Enter Chirp. Chirp has an integrated system where they can integrate with softwares like House Call Pro, Service Titan to be able to pick up where you missed the call and be able to text those customers, get them onto your dispatch board, send them an online booking link, and get them booked back into your business. Check out chirp.com/HSSR today to get 25% off your first 3 months. And I promise this one feature alone will be worth its weight in gold for your business.
Perfect. And if you ever wonder, well, what the heck do I even do with that? Need a little bit of extra help? Well, join us for the most magical contractor experience at the Service World Expo in Orlando, Florida, from October 15th to 17th this year. So enjoy keynotes, breakout sessions, new this year, 4-hour workshops. We've got social mixers and exhibit hall with industry-leading products and great podcasts like, hey, us, yours truly will be there. Network with other residential contractors and hear from some amazing keynotes, all designed to help contractors like you elevate your business. Register now and use the promo code SECRETS100 for $100 off. Visit serviceworldexpo.com to register today, and we'll see you there.
Excited to go back to the expo again.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, we've got On Purpose Media, your go-to home service marketing expert for everything web design, SEO, and PPC. You want a stunning user-friendly website? Definitely. Convert visitors on your website into phone calls with a high conversion rate optimization? Definitely. And enhance visibility with Google through effective pay-per-click and eliminate that wasted ad spend. It's one of the biggest pain points that we focus on is eliminating that wasted ad spend on Google. So go ahead and check us out at onpurposemedia.ca to start your digital transformation today.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
That's always a fun time.
What's up, Josh?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm
Or
excited.
Joshua.
Tomato.
Thanks for joining us today, man.
Should we just call out all Josh and Joshua's right from the very hop?
We should, especially if they do have a preference. If Josh's and Joshua's that have a preference between the two, stop being weird.
So that stemmed. So I asked him before. I said Josh. I'm like, wait, do you prefer Joshua because it's on here, or do you go by Josh? Like, I don't really care. And then he went and said, it's weird if you're a Josh or Joshua and you've got a preference. And so if Josh Crouch, sorry, I had something in my throat there.
Joshua Kelly.
Anyways, welcome to the show.
Into her. Josh, thank you so much for joining us, taking time away from the channel to be able to drop some nuggets here with us today. Walk us through your journey. You ran a company, you sold the company, you're running your YouTube channel. You've been running it for a while now. How did you get into it? Where did the inspiration to get onto YouTube start? Walk us through the journey, man.
Yeah, so when I had my business, I owned a heating and air business for 11 years. And I was always looking for, I was a cheapskate. I was always looking for ways to lower the overhead in creative ways. One of those ways was, I remember I had an experience with having a radio commercial and how expensive they can be. And I was like, well, how do I start my own radio station? I was always looking for ways to advertise, but, not have to have such high overhead. But as time went on, obviously social media and YouTube are free resources. And I started making videos partly for that reason, but also partly because, when you're in sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog, but he is not having a good time right now.
Wants to come inside. Yeah. It's like wants to go outside. Yeah. Squirrel.
Yeah, so when you're in somebody's house and you're trying to sell them something, their walls are up. They know you're trying to sell them something no matter how good you are. And so what I found was if I would make a video talking about the products we sold, or the benefits of choosing us versus the next company, and then just, attached it to an email or put it in our proposal, they could watch it from the comfort of their own home. The walls were down. I could get on my soapbox for a moment. And that was the original intent. I never intended to get one of these little silver play buttons or do some of the cool things that we're getting to do now. And it just kind of grew from there. And I saw a lot of heating and air guys making videos for other heating and air guys, but there weren't very many making videos for mom. If mom's about to buy a heating and air system, there was nobody that would give mom advice at the time. And so that kind of became the mission, and it's grown into some pretty cool experiences. I still think of myself as a guy that grew up in a trailer park and learned how to fix an air conditioner. And now fast forward, I was on a couple stages last year. It's been really, really crazy. So
Almost surreal.
Right.
Very odd.
So you ran the business for 11 years. Recently sold. Congratulations on the exit on that.
Thank
you. You did build a team up to, I think you said it was 12, right? At one point?
Yeah. The biggest we ever were was 12. Yep.
12. Okay. What were some of the frustrations that led you in the HVAC business to wanting to exit and go all in on YouTube?
Man, that's a loaded question. There's several, right? For me, I always wanted to be a business owner. I still am. I still own a couple businesses, including, I consider myself an entrepreneur when it comes to making YouTube videos. Um, but as I don't know, I don't want to say I became burnt out because that sounds weak, but to be completely honest with you, after just grinding for 10 years, I was burning out. And I was kind of, I was on the front line. I was the guy that, one of the things one of the other guys I follow, he'll always talk about when you're a service tech, you're constantly getting that hit of dopamine every time you fix their air conditioner. But then when you become a service manager or a business owner, that kind of goes away, and you've got to learn how to continue to stay motivated and without that hit of dopamine all the time. And I was experiencing that hard. There were times when disgruntled employees or disgruntled customers would take it out on me, and so it became harder and harder to climb in that attic when I was making more money making YouTube videos. I mean,
Mhm.
it just transparency on that front. Um, but there was an accumulation of things. I think that played a role, but um, I just always there's always that bigger dream, right? I had a dream of owning a business. I did that. I had a dream of building that business and employing others and treating them well, and I did that. Now I've got some other dreams on the hook.
Mm. Um, the burnout's not weak, by the way. Burnout's
Yeah.
real, and it is
Uh-huh.
100% real. And in looking at managing that accordingly for anybody that might be facing or thinking that they're in that situation, it is 100% real, especially as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. The shit that we deal with on a day by day basis is catastrophically different than what other people deal with on a day to day basis. Same but different, as they'd like to say in Thailand. I guess in looking at managing some of that burnout, what are some of the things that either you did during the time to be able to help reduce that, or some things that you realized after you sold the business and moved away from it that you're like, oh shit, if I would have actually done this one or two things, I would have actually been able to manage my burnout better.
I love that question. I was just talking to another business owner about that not long ago. I think personally, if I could have been better at compartmentalizing and better at turning it off when it was time to be, if I had a technician on call and I could go enjoy time with my family, being able to mentally turn it off, that would have been very helpful. Cause I couldn't, I just, even now that I've sold the business, I still will talk to, one of my employees now works for the company that bought it. And I had to tell him, stop telling me. Cause I carry it with me. And, that was my biggest problem. And that kind of goes back to why I sold, because I've got a 3-year-old now. And we've gone on 2 vacations this summer. I went 12 years and maybe longer, maybe probably before that, when I was working for other heating and air companies. But definitely during the years that I owned my business, between the months of April and September, we did not vacation.
Mhm.
I would maybe take a day off, but there was never a time I would take a week off. Um, so I'm gonna get to see her grow up, and so I think that if you own a business and you can find somebody good that can take care of the business when you're not there, figure out a way to turn it off, compartmentalize, and just enjoy yourself, and maybe, just maybe, you won't get burnt out like I did.
Mm. Well, I think a lot of times people have put this badge of honor on how much they work and how little they sleep, and they would say, "Well, I'm working 70 hours a week." And I see some people still on Facebook. They talk about or online. They're like, "Yeah, I worked 70 hours this week." Okay, great. Well, you also have kids and a family. When do they get to see you? When do they get to spend the time with you? So it's a very real part, and I think a lot of people need to hear that message more.
I agree.
Um,
I think.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to
no,
add.
no, keep going.
I think that if homeowners, I mean, sorry, business owners, if they, I think ultimately at the end of the day, if they could figure out not just a way to turn it off, but just a way to enjoy life or whatever. I'm trying to think of where I was going to go with that, but as you were talking, but yeah, just figure out a way to enjoy life and still kick butt. There's still something to be said for that grind, right? I still grind, but
Mhm.
now I can finally compartmentalize a little bit because I don't own a business that we're on call 24/7, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you can just
Well,
be you can be a little bit more in the moment.
I would disagree. I think you are on call 24/7 because the internet doesn't shut off. So how have you been able to do that now in your new business and your other business ventures versus before?
I think that I also cared so much. So when I had my
Right.
business, not only could I not turn it off, but I just I mean, you probably shouldn't care so much what people think all the time, but man, I just, cared so much. I wanted them to be happy when they chose us, and if they weren't happy, when in reality they wouldn't have been happy with anybody. It wouldn't have mattered how great of a job I did. They probably wouldn't have been happy. I still carried it, man. I mean, I still think back of some of the jobs, and even now I get a little stressed out, if you want to call it that. So it's just different. Do I get trolls on the YouTube channel? Of course, but it's just different. Those trolls are just some booger picker in their mom's basement, and I'm not worried about that guy. I was I was worried about Mrs. Jones, who hired us to fix her air conditioner, and Mrs. Jones wasn't happy with something. We tracked mud on her carpet. I'm paying for those carpets to be cleaned, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Some keyboard warrior makes a comment online. You're like, and delete.
Yeah.
Delete and block.
And delete.
Yeah. Uh, one of the things you mentioned briefly, and I know that you had the inspiring story of growing up poor in your notes and in changing into running a business, being successful now. And I've long since been a believer that sometimes people in their own environments, if they only see that environment, they're never going to be able to grow out of that environment. Now, if they see another environment, they see another way, they could potentially grow out of that environment and into something else. In that transition from growing up poor, transitioning out of that, seeing a different world, seeing a different environment, how have you changed your outlook from where you were to where you are now to be able to continue to have the growth and success that you're having without potentially going back into that same environment?
Man, this show's called Secrets Revealed. We're revealing now.
That's a deep question, I know.
I, you know, I I hear you on that. I think that there's something to be said for you are who you associate with, right? But I also think that there are some people that they to me, so for me, the way we grew up, and I love my parents. They did very well with what little bit we had. But at the same time, for me, when I would get off of work, I had to do I was not okay. I was never content. Even now, I'm not content. I've also come to the realization that not everyone's wired that way. Like most people that own businesses or entrepreneurs or whatever, they are who they are because they're wired that way. And God just didn't make us all that way. I've talked to other people who have said, Josh, I probably wouldn't even get out of bed every morning if I didn't have a boss. I have to have someone kind of push me and drive me to produce results. And even to this day, there's never a time where I clock out and then I mean, even now I'll have a laptop in my lap if we are relaxing in the afternoon and watching some reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond. I don't know if y'all love that show, but that's one of my faves. And I usually have a laptop in my lap and I'm working on something, trying to make the website better, trying to make something, do something. I'm not content with, oh, life sucks. I can't pay my bills this month, but I'm also going to, you know, get 10 hours of sleep tonight. It's just stop it.
No, I love that because that's. I
Mhm.
mean, I was in Peru for the last 2 weeks and had an amazing time. But we were in a bus, a big van, in between all the different stops. And so I was pulling out $100 million leads. I read through that, took Gary Vee's new book with me too. And yeah, like I knew the internet would be spotty, so I probably wouldn't have access to like answer emails and do all that kind of stuff. But I had the books with me so that I could be doing something and could be making progress. Because I don't know about you, but for me, it's like I always just want to be progressing and moving forward and feeling like I'm moving forward, because stagnation is just toxic for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're, I guess you could call him a mentor, a guy that I used to follow, used to always talk about my car is a rolling university. So I could listen to music, and I do from time to time, but I would say 80% of the time I've got you guys playing. I've got I follow probably 5 or 6 different podcasts, and you know, I I would much rather do that. I mean, you just never know when that next little nugget could change everything for your business, could change everything for your life, just because, instead of listening to Taylor Swift's new song, you went ahead and listened to, you know, something that could affect your family's life. I think when my little girl was born, it changed everything. Before that, I was a go-getter, but now I have I go with purpose. I want to know that if I die tomorrow, because I could, that she's going to be okay. And, she is. So
I think it was Brian Tracy talked a lot about that. Like your car's your university, and he was also talking when it was tapes before
Cassette.
CDs. Yeah, cassettes. There we go. And it was listening to his sales closing on cassettes.
Yeah, Zig Ziglar too. Now you mentioned that you don't think that everyone is wired that way, and I'm sure when you were running your business, you had that where some technicians, CSRs, office managers, etc., were not wired that way. What were some things that you did to work with them to help instill more of that hunger? And maybe it wasn't to the level that you naturally felt like you had, but to help them get out of bed in the morning and be that boss for them that helped them strive for more.
I don't even know if I was ever really, really good at that, to be honest with you. I did do weekly meetings, and at times more. So, I know there are some folks, some service managers that do daily meetings. So, we would try to meet with the guys more than less. We would try to do different things to make them feel like appreciated employees. But I also think that some people will show you who they are, and if you find a good employee, hang on to them, take good care of them. That's one of the things when I did start my business. Nobody ever talks about the connections that I remember one of our customers passing away and me bawling during a staff meeting once, and nobody ever talks about that. And I've got a couple of my old employees that they are, it sounds cliche, but they feel like family, even now that the company's gone, they that you develop that connection. So I think there are lots of things you could do to, help employees along, but I think ultimately if you find somebody that is saying the right things and they're showing interest, and especially in our trade, they're showing that they want to grow in our trade. I think that just nurture them, put more time and effort into them and less time into the guys that can't even bring a good attitude in the morning.
Right.
And you'll probably get a little further along, taking care of those guys that are, on their way, Sometimes they'll surprise you. Some of my best guys started out and I was like, I don't even think this guy's going to be here a week, my best guy year after year started out, he knew nothing. He worked for one of those quick oil change places that you pull in and you're got an oil change in 10 minutes.
Yep.
And he had a little bit of knowledge. He had turned a wrench, but He knew nothing about heating and air. And within 6 months, I knew I had one. He was on his own installing his first system. And I was like, wait, I finally found one, you know?
Well, the thing that those shops really teach is communication, right? Especially when you're turning the wrench and still communicating with the customer, and you're being able to present options, you show the different, right? Like they always show you good, better, best on everything. And then they're talking about upgrades constantly. So from a sales
Good
perspective,
point.
they're fantastic, and they have to be a little bit technically savvy as well and be able to turn a wrench.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
Out of curiosity, with the team members that you had that felt like they were more family, did you ever feel like that got in the way of being able to lead and manage them?
No, I was always careful. And you know, even now, so I still have an employee that helps me with the YouTube channel and stuff. And I never force them to be my Facebook friend. For example, if they want to friend request me, fine. But I never, you know, I would always give them. I don't know if y'all watch that goofy show on Bravo. My wife likes it. It's called Below Deck, where they take these rich people out. Okay, so there's this show. They go out on these big yachts, and there's like 10 or so people that work on the yacht, and they take these rich people out, and the whole show is about them fighting and whatever. And it's a reality show. And the captain on there would always say that he intentionally would not go out with them after hours when they're going to go out and have a drink, because he needed them to have the freedom to have a moment to bitch about him and to say, oh, the captain sucks, but I'm going to be at work tomorrow morning on time, you know? And I think that, you know, I think that's healthy. I think we all at times are going to complain about our boss. And even those employees that feel like family probably still didn't love me all the time.
Well, it's an interesting dichotomy to walk too, of making it your business feel like a family, but also making it a business. And I think that's the toughest thing. It's sometimes that it's actually funny. I'm listening to Dichotomy Leadership right now from with Jocko Willink, great book. But in like that's literally the chapter that I'm listening to, is this whole aspect of, well, you have to care for your people, but you can't be attached to your people. And when you get too attached, now you actually can't make a decision for your business, because you're too involved in the emotional side of things.
I think the biggest thing I gave my employees, at least, you know, most of them, is I gave them the same, and I can't say this would work for all companies or whatever, but for me, this worked great. I was not a doormat. So did we try to take really good care of our customers? Yes. But there were never times that I was going to be someone's doormat. I wasn't going to let them be ugly and just crap all over me. And I gave my employees the same freedom in that. I would say, you know, there are times when you can walk away. You can tell that homeowner we're just not a fit. And I think that went a long way, knowing that I had their back. Customer is always right. Okay. But are they really? No. I'm going to have my great employee. Like I remember one of my employees, his name is Kenny. And I remember a customer having a problem with Kenny. And I remember telling my wife, if they've got a problem with Kenny, they are the problem. The guy's the nicest man you'll ever meet. Kenny's not the problem. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I don't know what was said, but if they've got a problem with Kenny, they're the problem.
One of the most lovable guys around. There are those people. They're just like they're just like teddy bears. You just can't be mad at them.
That's right.
Unfortunately, Thad's not one of those people.
No, I'm definitely not that. People can get angry at me a lot, which is fine. I have no issues playing the villain sometimes. Should a person need to, but I do want to transition into the homeowner part of the conversation, because I think that's important. But before that, we've got a random question generator, and since you're a fan of the show, you already know what's coming. We have 3 questions queued up on deck. Actually, only 2 this time. So I had to ask our team as we're in the show, because it wasn't in our show notes. So I've got 2 questions for you. You don't get to know what the questions are. You just get to choose. Do you want question 1 or do you want question 2?
I'll go question 2.
All right. If you could, if you could shrink yourself down to the size of an ant, what would be the coolest thing to explore in your house or business from that perspective?
Ooh.
This is the stupidest question ever, but it's like the best question ever. Honey,
I
Shrunk
think
the
it kind
Kids,
of
basically
equates
what I
to
think of.
that fly on the wall conversation, whenever there's things being said and you're like, "Man, I wish I could be a fly on the wall in that conversation." Um, I don't know. I think that's as I said earlier, I would give my employees freedom at times to complain about me, so I wouldn't want to have always been a fly on the wall as far
Right.
as that goes.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
I don't know. That's tough.
That's a tough one. That
What's
is a tough one. Well, I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, like the movie when he shrinks the kids down to the size of the ants. I actually think the backyard would be a great adventure place from the size of an ant's perspective. I don't know if I want to look at anything inside my house, but definitely the backyard. I mean,
yeah?
might get stepped on, but hey, that happens. Sprayed with
Go,
ant kill.
crawl through the ductwork of your house.
Yeah, that actually, I mean, kind of disgusting when you think about it, but get it cleaned, crawl through it before, and then get it cleaned, and then go through it after.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Awesome. Well, I know we want to dive into the homeowner side of things, and this obviously goes in conjunction with the YouTube channel, building out the content for homeowners. There was a lot of content that was being built for technicians, being built for contractors. I mean, this channel is essentially for contractors, right? But for you, you took a different approach and wanted to reach out to homeowners, connect with them, build content for them. What was the inspiration behind that? And I mean, you've taken it so much further than I think you even intended to in the beginning. So I guess walk us through a little bit of that thought process, and then where is it lacking today with most home service businesses?
Yeah, so as I said originally, I was making YouTube videos just as a sales tool for the company. And somewhere along the way, this I remember exactly where I was to this day. This lady called me and she said, "Hey, I found you on YouTube. I'm not in your area, but can I ask you a couple questions? The things you're telling me, I'd just like to ask you a couple questions." And I don't even to this day, I don't remember what exactly I told her. Probably some 10-second commercial that I probably said to every homeowner. But I remember telling her a few things, and I remember her saying to me, "No one has ever told me what you're telling me. Like no one's taken the time to explain, whatever it is I was talking to her about." And a light bulb went off. Did I lose you guys? I think my internet is
It's a little spotty,
not
but we
doing
can hear
great.
you.
I heard you.
Are you still there?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my internet is. So anyway, that actually is the reason I built the website that I built, newhvacguide.com, because I wanted to I could have written a book. I could have, but let's be honest, that would have been outdated within a year or two. With an industry that changes so fast, it would have been outdated really quickly. So instead, it's more of a membership site format that we can change and massage as time goes by. And ultimately the channel started to grow a little bit, the YouTube channel, and again, like you said, I never thought it would be what it is, but along the way, just by making a few videos giving advice to, quote unquote mom, if she was in the market for a heating and air system, I had gotten to 700 subscribers, and I don't remember how many watch hours, but I was on the cusp of getting monetized, and YouTube sent me an email saying, "Hey, if you get to 1,000 subscribers, we're going to send you a check." And that was March of 2021, I think it was. It was 2020 or 2021. But I hammered the next month. I every week I was belting out at least 3 to 5 videos, and in every video I was saying, "Please hit that subscribe button." By May, they sent me that first check, and the rest was history. I stopped doing all the other things I was doing. I was doing a podcast at the time. I stopped that. You know, and I went all in, put all my eggs in that basket, if you want to put it that way.
Well, and I think the thing that
Did you frame the first check? Did you keep it?
No, it was bigger than I thought it would be. So I
guess you couldn't
cashed her.
frame it. Yeah. And I guess they could have done the mobile payment, like the mobile deposit from your app, and then kept the check. But hey, that would have been forethought.
I should have done that.
That's smart. I think, like, just to acknowledge the work that you put in. I mean, YouTube, long form videos on YouTube is the hardest platform to scale right now. To grow in 2 years, 3 years, you know, from 700 subscribers to 140,000 subscribers is a tremendous feat. So I definitely want to acknowledge that, because that's huge, dude. You've done some amazing work. But again, it's a testament to the consistency, right? Anything done well consistently over time is going to perpetuate results coming back to you. And putting out 3 videos a week on YouTube that are well edited, that are full of valuable content is not easy. So hats off to you on that.
Thank you. It's been fun too, you know, but yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Go ahead. All right. Well, in terms of from a marketing perspective for business owners, for contractors, trying to reach and connect to homeowners, I mean, that was the approach that you took with it. It's something that we've seen is kind of lacking in the market. A lot of focus is on profitability. A lot of focus is on, you know, sales, and you hear that with a lot of the PE that's come into the industry now, where technicians are unhappy because it went from being a family company to just focused on sales now. And there's a big disconnect between helping homeowners. And I think technicians still live there, and they truly do want that for homeowners. How do we as an industry get back to helping people and that being at the core of what we do?
Man, that's part of it, right? I mean, I think that we have multiple voices in our industry. Some are pushing for, hey, we need to get back to some traditional values here. And then we have others that are glorifying, you know, pushing how many sales can I push every month? And I don't know what the answer is, because the people that seem to push the message of, hey, I sold this much money last month, they're the ones that get rewarded at the end of the day.
Right.
They're the, you know, so that, I think all in all, it's tough. I think that character is who you are when no one's looking. And I think if you are somebody that can sleep at night, knowing that you probably took advantage of Mrs. Homeowner, I can't change that. To me, that's how you are at the core, right? But if you are one of those guys that, or gals, lady, that, you know, wants to do things right and take good care of people at the end of the day, I genuinely believe that at the end of no matter what your religion is, or I think those things come back around. And if you're taking good care of people, those seeds will pop back up at some point. And I think you just got to have that kind of an attitude. You know, things will come back around.
Well, and I think it's also partly the loud ones are always the ones that are talking and pumping the sales aspect of things and the revenue and profit and et cetera. I mean, don't get me wrong, profit's not a dirty word. In fact, you should be going for 20% profit in any
you're not running a business to be a charity.
No, you're
Right.
not an accidental nonprofit, is what I always say. Like, I'm running a business to have a profit, right? And that's why everybody else should be running a business to have a profit, and understanding that profit and customer service go hand in hand, right? When you have great customer experience, well, you can also get a great profit. But the other thing, and I read this stat, and I don't know, I can't remember where it was from. So forgive me if this is an inaccurate stat, but 90% of HVAC companies are $2 million or less. and it could have been home services. But 90% of companies are $2 million or less. And so you think about, okay, well, if you are in that category, you can have a great customer experience still. You can still do what's right for the homeowner and not necessarily focus on those overarching sales goals that everybody is talking and showing, et cetera, on the interwebs. So just keeping note of that too, right? Like it's also your reality too. Not everybody needs to be and wants to be a 10 to $20 million business per year business or greater than that, which has to have a sales machine element to it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to villainize. I really don't want to.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly people out there that are bad apples, but then there are some good apples out there that, by gosh, they're good apples and they should be paid as such. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I certainly don't want to villainize anyone that wants to make a decent living, but I'm totally with you on that. I think that if you are again, if you're sowing good seeds and they're going to come back around, and I think that you should be blessed if you're taking good care of folks.
Mhm. Well, I always reference, I mean, Tommy Mello is a good example. I mean, it's a 9-figure per year business and has the Google reviews to back it up. And I'm sure he gets some bad complaints, just like any business has some bad experiences and bad complaints and et cetera. But he also takes care of his people and he also makes a profit. I think another one I think of is Billy Stevens, right? What they're doing in Dallas and Billy Go and the reviews that they get. Well, he's also 20. He's open about it. I think he's like a 23 or 26% net profit in his business. Yet he's still a great machine behind it and taking care of the customers.
Yep.
That's I think
And
that's
any
the big
good
thing, right? Is taking care of the people. And I guess in referencing that and looking at that, and I'll actually ask a question versus me just saying something and then leaving it open ended, which I do sometimes. But looking at, okay, I'm a company and I'm of the 90% grouping, and I want to make sure that I can do right by Mr. Homeowner or Mrs. Homeowner, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, however you want to phrase it. What are some of the things that you've seen companies do incorrectly, unintentionally incorrectly, not intentionally incorrectly, unintentionally incorrectly, that hinder or hurt the homeowner that they could easily fix overnight?
I think that any good homeowner is going to want you to still be in business 10 years from now. So, if you've got a homeowner that's just going for the rock bottom price and you're trying to chase them, that's not who we chased at my company. Most of the systems we installed were high end systems, and because of that, we had a higher end client base. That said, to answer your question, I think that there are there are certain things you can do to add value. It's one thing to say, well, we both can install an air conditioner and I'm just going to have a higher price because I want to make more money than you do. I want to have a higher percentage or a higher margin. Sure. But you could also figure out a way to add value, such as educating that homeowner on a few different options, upgrades, perhaps offering an extended labor warranty, offering some indoor air quality products, all educating them and offering them a higher end system. Um, you know, if you're not offering those systems, I've have guys comment on our videos all the time, and they'll say, "I don't, nobody in my area buys that stuff." Did you offer any of them? Have you offered? Well, no, we don't even sell it at my company because nobody buys it. Well, that's probably because why they're that's why they're not buying it. You're not offering it. There are some homeowners out there, and sometimes they'll surprise you. They're going to buy the best of whatever you provide. They're going to buy it because they like you and they want the best, and they've got the money. The first inverter system I've told this story before. The very first inverter 20-SEER system I ever sold was to a lady that was a hoarder, and she smoked like a freight sharing. And when my technician called me and he's like, she wants the platinum one unit. She wants the top one. And I was like, you're kidding. There's no way. And that's what she wanted. And she had the money. And
Well,
Yeah.
It's funny like, that's the reality, it's just showing it. I remember, I used to sell Cutco knives. Evan, yeah, I did too, that's where we met. Of course, it's not a podcast if we don't mention that we sold Cutco. But I remember one time, like, the summer that I was in the sales, role for the most part, that's all that is, exclusive sales. I actually sold the most they had pots and pans, and not a lot of people knew that Cutco had pots and pans. And I sold the most pots and pans of anybody in Canada. And somebody asked me once, "Well, how are you selling so many pots and pans?" I'm like, "Well, I talk about it. I show them a demo, and I just put it on as we're doing it, and I just say, great, here we go, and then I just talk about it. You want to know more?" And they say, yeah, and then all of a sudden, hey, look, now we're selling pots and pans. Like, you just got to show it and talk about it, because when you do, you never know. You can't prejudge or pre-qualify at the end of the day, because you just never know.
Now I want some pots and pans just because you talked about it.
Well, I tell you, I got a deal for you.
No, but how often do managers, to owners, contractors, et cetera, jump into, treating the symptom versus treating the cause? Oh, you've got a low average ticket. Well, you're just not selling enough. You're not talking about it enough. You're not right. You're not doing enough of this. Instead of actually figuring out, well, what is it that's there? That's the actual problem. Do they not believe in it? Do they not think that people will buy it? Are they just not presenting the options? Are they not presenting enough options? Right. And that's, kind of what we alluded to earlier, that sales is the dirty word, and sales is the thing that's ruining the industry and ruining customer experience. Well, selling isn't something that you do for someone or to someone. It's something you do for someone, right? And being able to present options and allow them to make a buying decision based off of the education that you provide them as the expert in their home. Well, that's what real customer service is.
Absolutely. I concur.
Well, and that's what you do on your channel, right? And when you look at the content that you've put out, some of your most popular videos that you've put out, there's so much information on there. One of the hot button topics that I see you've put out a bunch of content about recently in the last little while is the Freon and the different changes that are happening around that. What are your thoughts on some of the changes that we're seeing in terms of the regulations that they're trying to bring in? You're talking about stuff that's flammable versus not, the struggles that they're having in getting it approved. Yeah, we'll leave it open-ended here for you. What are some of your thoughts around it?
Oh, I love this topic. It's the one thing I could definitely get on my soapbox on, because there's a lot of guys in our industry that hate change, right? And so
Yep.
I'm sometimes with them. I'm not in love with the new SEER2 ratings that came out a couple years ago, right? I'm not in love with them possibly. I can't speak for Canada, but down here in the States, there's this push in certain states to get rid of low efficiency furnaces, right? So I can't speak to all of that, but this one change right here, if there is a technician listening to your show, this one change, us bringing in A2L refrigerants, they just became more valuable over the next 3 decades than what they would have been without this change. I'm not talking to homeowners here. I'm now talking to the technician. In a world where we're constantly told we're not worth what we say we are. I can buy that online. I can buy DIY units. In a world where we're constantly told we're not worth what we say we are, that we're not allowed to drive a nice car, right? One guy commented on my video because I have a sunroof in my car in one of my videos, and he's like, "This jerk's driving a nice car. You can't trust him." So in a world where we're constantly told we're not supposed to make what we're worth, maybe, just maybe, you should be happy, if you're a good technician, that these things aren't quite so safe, that you need to know what you're doing. Should you be fearful of these new refrigerants? I think no. If they've been using them in other continents for decades, I think we're going to be okay as a first world country, right? But do we need to be serious about them? Should a homeowner be finally hiring a professional to work with these refrigerants? You just became more valuable. If Mrs. Jones is about to buy a house and she sees one of those crap DIY units on the side of that house, and she knows that there could possibly have mildly flammable refrigerants flowing through those lines, maybe, just maybe, she's going to call you, Mr. Technician, that knows what you're doing and you're doing everything properly. she's going to call you to make sure everything's right. And should you be excited about that? I think yes. I think that for the first time, you should be excited about a change in our industry.
So how does one then from the business side to the consumer side in getting that messaging out there that it's not okay to DIY your shit? Because I mean YouTube is a good example of that, of the DIY videos that are out there. I mean, I fixed my dryer the couple months ago by looking at a YouTube video. I mean, luckily I unplugged the dryer first, so I didn't electrocute myself. Uh,
You
and then
didn't get stuck in it?
I didn't. No, I did not get stuck in it. Although the other day, one of the kids closed the other kid inside the washing machine. So we had a talk. We had to talk about that one, saying, yeah, don't close the kid inside of it. So, but like, how do you get the message out there, right? How do we educate more? And obviously, your channel is one of those ways to be able to do that. But how do you get that out there to the masses to say, hey, these things are coming down the line. You should not do this yourself.
I think at the end of the day, there is this line, right? So there is this line of there are some things that homeowners can do and maybe even could do to save money. And then there are things that they probably should not be doing if they're not a certified licensed technician to be doing those things. The problem is we probably all disagree where that line should be. There are some technicians that think homeowners shouldn't even be replacing their own air filters or putting drain tabs in their drain to make sure it flows. And then there are other technicians that think that I'll just willy-nilly giving homeowners all this information. There's YouTube videos of guys, no offense, some of these guys, I actually like their stuff, but there's literally a video where a guy is showing homeowners how to stick a match up in their heat exchanger. And I'm like, you're going to get someone killed doing this stuff. So I think at the end of the day, if you are a handy homeowner and because I get homeowners all the time, they'll say, oh, you guys are leeches and you guys, what you do ain't that hard. Okay, fine. There are homeowners that are pretty handy, and 90% of what we do, as long as they've got a good grasp on electrical, they probably will be fine doing certain things. But there is definitely a line. We might not agree where that line is, but if you overstep that line and you don't know what you're doing, you are, if nothing else, you could burn your house down. You may not get hurt necessarily, but you could burn your house down. You could put your family at risk because you wanted to save a couple dollars. There is a line. We just might not agree where it is.
And again, it's subjective, right? Like, I'll take myself as an example. I feel like I'm a pretty handy homeowner, and I got a pretty good grasp on a lot of the things on that. Well, I know in my furnace downstairs, I've changed my pressure switch once before because it went. And granted, the person I called to do it was away, and he's like, "Oh, dude, it's easy. It's 2 screws and a clip. I'll go order the part for you. Just go pick it up. It's COD." I'm like, "Okay, cool, did it." Well, I guess when my blower motor went earlier this year, yeah, I wasn't going to replace that myself. We're going to bring somebody in. I know, like, yeah, okay. In essence, it's fairly simplistic. I mean, there's a lot of different moving ways to be able to do that. But I'm like, no, you can just do that, because if I fuck that up, it was also winter, and I didn't really want to have no heat for that long. So,
well, and that's just it. Like the
right?
gas valve went on my furnace at one point, right? Like you're dealing with natural gas, you're dealing with CO2, you're like carbon monoxide, all of that shit. The last thing you need is a carbon monoxide leak in your house, right? Yeah, there's certain things you just don't touch. The refrigerant, you burn yourself. And I've seen the pictures of the guys with blisters all over their hands, even with the refrigerant that it is now. Right now, you're talking about something that's more flammable that's going to be coming in, and I would much rather hire a professional and let them go deal with it.
Right. Well, peace of mind. And it's also like roofing. Or like, can you replace your own roof? Yeah, sure. Well, what's your time worth too? Like, that's the other part. How much time are you going to invest and you're going to suck into it? And so some people think that, well, I'm going to do this myself and I'm going to save a few dollars. Well, no, you just spent extra time away from whatever else that brings you pleasure. And maybe this brings you pleasure. Sure. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're just doing it to save some money, when in essence, it doesn't actually save you money in the long run. Yep. It's the accountant versus the economist time. I always look at that as two different things. The accountant looks at time specifically from a dollar in, dollar out perspective. While the economist looks at it as what is your value and your time worth to be able to do it. And there's two different looks at that.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting topic. So Ryan on YouTube here said it's tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes price gouging is real in the HVAC industry, seen it firsthand. And definitely, by the way, Ryan, it absolutely does happen at times. That's why it's important to find a good contract so the prices that work appropriately. But even with that, there still is a balance, right? Because you could hire the cheapest guy in town. And I'm a firm believer, as someone who sold Cutco, good stuff isn't cheap and cheap stuff isn't good. So there is still a value there of paying a premium price to get a premium service where now there's no callbacks, right? They're not screwing it up. They're doing a thorough inspection. They're looking to see, are there going to be other problems that could arise? And it's not just this one fix that's going to solve the problem, but is there other things that are going to create more problems down the road?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're the HVAC tech, so.
Yeah. Again, I'll just say it again. I think we can all agree and I think you're right. It's not objective. It's subjective. That line is different for every homeowner. That line might even move because there are certain guys in our trade that are more expensive, or maybe they're not quite as good at what we do. Right. So that line might move a little further towards the homeowner doing certain things. I think you could argue different situations. That line is definitely there. And I think at the end of the day, if you're a more handier homeowner, you could probably do some things like replace a pressure switch. But then there are other things where maybe, just maybe, I agree. It's not a couple dollars. It's also not tens of thousands of dollars. We're talking some repairs can be $1,000 or $2,000, but maybe, just maybe, you might want to still pay for it because you might end up paying for more in the end if you don't get it done correctly.
Right. And I think where potentially that's going tens of thousands sometimes is the in the gouging aspect of things is the upsells and the add-ons and the pluses that somebody comes in to look at. It's building the option tree or the wish list or whatever you want to call it, depending on who your sales trainer has been, writing down everything that they say. And so if you look at that and you're saying, okay, well, I've got a quote here for $26,000 to replace my AC unit, the fuck? Well, hey, how about let's walk that back a little bit and let's say, did you go get a second and a third opinion? And how in line are those prices? Right? You're like, I've always been told, go get 3 quotes. When I was managing condos, if you don't like the first one, well, and you don't trust the person, well, then go get 2 more quotes to be able to validate the pricing. Now, if you get 3 quotes and they're all completely out to lunch, well, then go get 3 more. And see where the price falls, because now you're going to see some form of certainty. I mean, for the most part, pricing should be ballparkish the same, give or take, depending on the company. Right? You got one person in a van. Well, yeah, guess what? Their pricing is going to be lower because they don't have the overhead.
Right.
You've got a big company, $10, $20 million. Well, they've got overhead. So their pricing does have to be a little bit higher, but now you should have a better customer experience because it's not just one person. And so there's that blend too of understanding the type of a person that you're purchasing from too. Right now, we're talking on the homeowner side, like who are you buying it from? What is the company, right? How does that company make you feel? Do they have a very nice truck wrap? Do they have all of their guys and gals come into their home nicely clean, dressed, company uniforms, all those things, and putting booties on, putting a mat in front of your door when they walk in? Are they cleaning up? If they're doing an install, are they buying the rolls of cardboard to be able to roll down if they are coming in and out of the house with their boots on? Are they doing all those small things? Because when they do all those small things, yeah, you're paying for the premium service. It's like, I can't remember if it was Brigham that talked about it last time. I mean, you look at the car manufacturers. Car manufacturers picked up on this in the very beginning. GMC and Cadillac, guess what? Same company, different logo, different experience. Toyota and Lexus, guess what? Same company, different logo, different experience. And so understanding that too of the price point of what you're actually purchasing as a homeowner, are you wanting the high-end experience? Well, it's going to cost you more.
I concur.
I went on a rant there.
One of the books that I love, and we'll touch on this really quick, and then we'll wrap things up here. But one of the books I love is They Ask You Answer, um, which the whole premise of the book is how do you build content that's going to truly answer the real questions that your customers have on a daily basis. And I think that your channel really does hit on this, and it did when you were running a business, and it still does today. Um, of being able to meet customers where they're at and be able to educate them and arm them with the information that they need to make a great buying decision. What is it that you feel like companies can do better to try and follow in your footsteps when maybe they can't break through that YouTube algorithm the way that you have now, but maybe they could in another way to be able to meet customers where they're at?
Yeah, so on our website, one of the things we do is we have masterminds. So I've got a group. I've actually got two groups, but one in particular where we have said, "Hey, they've almost kind of taken the bull by the horns, and they are each making their own videos for their company." And the thought process is, and that you want to talk about secrets revealed. If there's a pro out there that hears this, I think it could change their business. There are areas of our country, of our continent really, that there are literally no videos for that area. So if you take let's just say a city where if you go to Google and you say, okay, HVAC contractors in Chicago, Illinois, you're going to get a plethora of companies that pop up on Google Maps or on Google Business. Um, in hindsight, if you search Chicago, Illinois HVAC, and I haven't even done this, so I could be completely wrong, but most cities there is nothing on YouTube. And so I think that if you are a good company, you could hyper target a certain market to where if they search their city and they're looking for different keywords, furnace, HVAC, whatever, and they see, your face pop up every time they're searching any of that, there is a huge opportunity there for, this isn't something I created. There are real estate professionals that have done a really good job at this and changed the trajectory of their businesses, because if you search real estate in that city, you see that real estate agent pop up constantly. And I think that that's not done enough. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but I think that's a huge opportunity. I think a lot of pros could not just have more money come through the door, but ultimately they're also going to be seen as a professional. Um, it's going to add credibility, right? If somebody in your city just keeps seeing you pop up every time they search anything revolving around their city and that problem, guess who they're calling? They're calling the guy that or gal that is in their feed. So
Well, and here's the other part that it does in terms of the marketing side of things from the marketing agency, is that if you have those videos and you're working with a marketing agency, well, now you can take those and you can embed those onto the website. You can create blog posts out of it. And you can also throw those up on the old TikToks too and do the exact same thing. And now you're leveraging something that you created for one platform, YouTube, search engine, by the way, for another platform, TikTok, search engine, by the way. Oh, hey, and you're putting on your website to be able to please the Google gods. Hey, search engine, by the way. Now you're taking that one piece of content and doubling down on that, tripling, quadrupling down, because you're putting in multiple different places.
Yeah.
That's the other part on the business side, not just the tech. If you're the business owner looking at that, that's how you can leverage some of those things. Evan, you're going to say a thought?
Yeah, it was doubling down on the same aspect of being able to connect with people where they're at. So start the video, wear a Bears jersey, right? If you're in Chicago, for example, right? And then you start off with like, my God, was that game frustrating? Anyways, hey, it's Josh with Griffin Air. I'm up in Evanston right now, and we were just at a home, and this is what we noticed. And here was the issue. If you're in Evanston too, and you have the same kind of issue, chances are here's what the problem is. Try this quick fix. If that doesn't do it, call us, because it's something that's more complicated. Now you've created real content. You've helped people. You've connected with them on that local level. and you've created a call to action at the end of it in case that quick fix didn't work that was simple to do as a homeowner. It's something that I've seen some different business owners do in other industries, and I think it's something that works tremendously well with connecting with people.
There you go.
Yep. I'm already seeing people do it. We have got one guy in particular in our mastermind that he has a very, very young business, and he's already all over. If you search his city, he's there.
Nice.
So on the number 2 most searched website in the world, Google being number 1, YouTube being number 2, he is there. If you search for any word that has anything to do with HVAC in his city, there he is.
Well, and on the Google leaks that happened, what was it, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now, the number one thing that it talked about when it comes to local search is video. Making sure that you've got video on your website, making sure that you got the proper schema to make sure so that people know that this is a video site and there's video on the site. Incredibly important for local search.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that we can keep going, but we do want to be respectful of the time, so we'll wrap her up here. So if you want to check out more information on where to find Josh, newhvacguide.com is one way. The YouTube channel, youtube.com/@newhvac guide. And he's also coming up with a new one, youtube.com/@HVAC Guide Live show, which is super important there. For those that are watching on his channel, though, hey, guess what? Head on over to ours, youtube.com/@HVAC Revealed. Hit the subscribe button. So we'll do a little bit of subscribing back and forth for our viewers. But as we do
Let's see if we can get Josh up to 150,000. He's almost there.
There you go. So as we do wrap up, we've got one last question here for you, though. What is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but don't?
Oh man, great question. I will, if it's okay, I'm going to spin that, and I wish they would stop asking me what the best HVAC brand is. Stop caring so much about what the brand is and care more about finding a good contractor. And you know, and I know you guys are more about, you know, your audience is the contractors themselves, you know, be that good contractor, you know, so stop worrying about the brand so much. I'm not one of those guys that says, oh, they're all the same with just different paint. I do have preferences, but at the end of the day, I think that finding a good company that will stand behind what they're installing is way more important than the brand that you read on some website or saw some fat face like mine, some guy say, oh, this brand's the best. Ignore that crap, find a great contractor, and then, you know, nurture that relationship.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because you ask 10 different technicians what their favorite brand is, and you'll get 10 different answers. Like that's the reality. I mean, not from the same company. Ask 10 different texts from 10 different companies, and you're going to get different answers because it's just subjective to the individual.
Yeah, I would way rather have the worst brand installed correctly than the best brand installed incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it will last 10 times longer.
It's funny because I just replaced Ever Rental. It has 2 furnaces, and one furnace went down, and it was the only company that could come like that day. It was wintertime. They replaced it, and the other guys they replaced it a little bit later. I haven't even heard of the brand that he installed. He's like, "Do you care what the brand is?" I'm like, "No, as long as it runs." He's like, "Great." So I looked at the name when I was there last time. I couldn't even tell you the name of what it is. I've never heard of this before in my life, and it's not a private label. It's just some random brand I've never heard of. But hey, you know what? It works.
Here's a question for you then. What are we'll say 3. What are the top 3 questions that a homeowner should ask to determine whether or not they're dealing with the right company?
Why do you sell what you sell? I'm not one of those guys that thinks, you know, of course I just said brand doesn't matter as much as the contractor, but I definitely think that you should ask who you're about to hire. I want to hire a contractor that drinks the Kool-Aid for whatever it is they're installing. Why do you sell what you sell? And you should be able to, I think a good contractor should be able to answer that. If their answer is, well, it's what my dad always sold. And, you know, no, I want to know that you love and you just breathe what you're installing. So that would probably be the first one. The second one is I would ask them what they have in their own house. So if I think that if contractor really does believe what he's selling, he should be installing it in his own house. And then the last question would be, I would probably ask, I don't know. I think a lot of homeowners don't think about the warranty as much. I'd probably ask what their warranty is. I don't even know if you asked what the homeowner should be asking. Maybe you meant for contractors.
Nope,
But
I meant for the homeowners because
okay.
That's who you communicate to, right? A lot of the times. And if contractors know what it is that homeowners are looking for and they fully understand that, and on the flip side, if the marketing company knows what the homeowners are looking for, they'll be able to provide those answers and they'll be able to live those values in their business.
I've got one more, and because your audience is the contractor, on my website, New HVAC Guide, homeowners can hire me to help them figure it out, to help them go through proposals and figure out what the verbiage means, right? The biggest thing that irks me when I see these proposals sent in from contractors is not enough of them are doing properly structured contracts. Have a contract that spells everything out so there's no surprises. I can't tell you how many homeowners that I've helped that I'm like, ask them for a contract. What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? It's not there. There's no contract for you to sign and things be spelled out. It should be in writing. We don't live in a world where it's on a handshake anymore because there are some bad apples out there. Put it in writing, have a proper contract, and take good care of that customer. It irks me, and I'm telling you, I would say the majority of the contracts or proposals that I see sent out, there's no contract. There's no good contract attached.
So the proposal I got on the back of the napkin was not good enough.
At least if it's a contract, that would be a start.
Right?
If it's something to sign.
No, it's a great point, right? And being able to understand that from the contractor's perspective of what is it that people want, reverse engineer that. Even starting with what is it that I would want as a homeowner? What is it that I would want my spouse to be shown as a homeowner? Reverse engineer that and build your business around that experience. I always love the adage of sell as if it was your mother. How would you position an offer to your mother when it comes to her HVAC system, her plumbing system, her electrical system? Doing it from that perspective, you're always going to take care of people the right way, unless you were adopted, then maybe not,
or you didn't like your mom. Always a caveat. Well, Josh, I'll figure I'd throw that one in there. Thank you for taking the time to come on our show and also to connect to your audience and to your show. I think we had some great, fascinating conversations for both audiences. And looking forward to the things that are going to come from your new brand and doing the lives on the YouTube and continue to grow that. So thank you for taking the time to come on with us.
Likewise.
Yeah, no worries. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.